Hi there, welcome to our last presentation of the Globe Sound Healing Conference. This presentation is on grief, using sound for grief to deal with it. At our medicalsoundassociation.com, there's a whole treatment plan for grief that you can find under integrative sound. And that's what we're going to be looking at mostly here. First of all, there's a lot of things that we grieve. The most common we think of is a death or loss of a loved one. Could even be a breakup, could be a divorce or relationship breakup. But it can also be loss of health or loss of function. Could be a loss of a job, loss of financial stability, miscarriage, retirement, death of a pet, loss of a cherished dream, serious illness of a loved one, loss of a friendship, loss of safety after trauma, losing a home, regret that you could have done something different, collective grief over cultural or planetary issues. I mean, if you just tune into what's going on the planet, oh my God, there's so much to grieve, right? Could be post-traumatic stress, judgment from others, or even judgment from yourself. Trauma, abuse, social isolation, and loss of support system or friends. I mean, it could be even loss of your keys, right? I mean, loss of anything. I mean, lose your wallet or your purse, whatever, right? Grief is so common. It's really extremely common. There are three types of situations that are dealt with differently with sound when it comes to grief. First of all, there are a situation where someone just lost someone. And then there's times when people aren't feeling anything. And then there's times when it goes on a little too long, maybe even years. The first situation, when someone has just lost someone, the key here is to not try and cheer them up. In fact, it's much better to be with them in the grief. And the first thing I like to say is, it's okay to feel what you're feeling. And in fact, it's okay to grieve. A lot of people, try to do distraction. Let's go get a beer. Let's cheer you up. I remember when my kitty died, I did not try and be happy. I focused on my grief and was allowed myself to be sad. And it was just beautiful. I felt totally grounded, totally present. I remember going to the store and I was looking at people. It looked like they're running around with their heads cut off. I was so in my body and so present because I wasn't resisting it. I was simply allowing it to be, and even doing it for a week. Actually, I remember calling my students and said, I'm going to take a day off. And one student said, take the whole week off. My kitty had died, right? And I loved my kitty. And so I just really relished and really felt the grief and allowed it to be. And I think that's really important to, especially when someone has just passed or a situation has just happened. It's okay, it's natural to grieve. The second type of situation is when somebody's not feeling at all. Oh, I have to go back to work. I've got a big job at work. I'll get fired. Or, I'm fine. I'm fine. Don't worry, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Right? In fact, you can tell that when they're stuffing it. I remember I had one of my colleagues, his secretary died, who he's very close to. And I said, how are you doing? And he goes, I'm actually fine. And I realized he was fine. But often people are like, no, fine. I don't want to bother with it. No. You need to feel. I had this one guy who had his daughter had committed suicide. And then his wife left him. And he came in and he said, if I start crying, I don't think I'll ever stop. And so I got him on the sound table and started doing a treatment with different instruments in the voice. And I was feeling his grief, so I started crying. And after about a half hour, he started bawling. And I thought, yes, yes, he's finally feeling again. When you shut down your emotional body from grief, you're shutting down all emotions, which would mean joy or anything else that you might feel emotionally. You're shutting down the whole emotional body. It's critical. And often the trick is with sound to do something sad, to do a melody, or just the energy of sad, like so if someone's not feeling, bring them into the sadness. But then the problem is if it goes on a little too long. I had this student a couple of years ago, and she said that her husband died. And she said, I cry every day, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day. And I'm like, well, how long ago did he die? And she goes, 2 years ago. I'm like, holy moly, you're a professional griever. You're totally got it down. I said, does it feel good? And she goes, well, no, it kind of gets in the way of my life. Now, if you have someone that passes and even 20 years later, you see something that reminds you of them and you just start bawling and bawling, that's perfect. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's not doing it all day long every day, right? That's when it's a problem. That's called, in psychotherapy, that's called complicated grief, when it goes on all day, every day for a really long time. Now, in this case, and ultimately for all grief, the main antidote is a few things, 3 different things. One is it's okay. One is universal love. And one, the most easiest, is gratitude. Let's go through each one and talk about it in more detail. Presence is really cool as well. So let me tell you my okay story. So years ago, I was in college at UC Santa Cruz on the first class, and the teacher goes, okay, hook up with someone and tell them something really deep about yourself. I got hooked up with this woman, and she goes, I was just at the beach with my best friend yesterday, and we were swimming out in the ocean and got caught by the waves, and she got carried into the rocks and was killed. I'm like, holy crap, what are you doing here? And she goes, well, immediately it felt like it was okay. She said the paramedics came, they were trying to resuscitate her, and she was gone. There was a big crowd. She said she went walking up on the hill above the beach, and there was a guy up there who had been playing guitar, and he goes, what's going on down there? And she said, my friend just died. And she said this guy played a song on the guitar for her that totally made it okay. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you about myself after that, right? So I went home, and I'm telling my roommates this story. And one roommate, his name was Andrew, he's a total light being, light worker. And Andrew's also a really good guitar player. And Andrew goes, yeah, I never played a song like that in my life. It was my roommate who played this song the day before of this woman I'd never met when her best friend died on the beach. That was over 30 years ago. A few years ago, Andrew was in Kauai riding a bicycle, and a car came and hit him and killed him. And my first thought was, it's okay. And I told that story at his wake. It's the wheel of life. It's the most natural thing there is. When someone dies, there's always someone being born. And in fact, death and birth is the most beautiful method to have us ascend into higher levels of consciousness and higher levels of being than anything else. I mean, if we were to live forever, then, or even all the things on the planet, plants and everything, everything's being recycled and moving to a next level. So we don't get stuck in these old patterns forever. And that's a real problem that happens, is when you get stuck. So there's always renewal. And, nothing like a baby that's seeing life for the first time. So it's the most natural and wonderful pattern in the universe. It's okay. But to go to okay when your mom has died, or someone really close has died, or even a child, that's not easy. That's a really high state of awareness and consciousness. So you're really not stuffing it. It's not like you're not feeling. It's really okay. It's really okay. It's the truth, and you can go there. But for a lot of people, that's a really difficult one. When my kitty died, I was like, okay, it's okay, but I'm still going to grieve for a week. Right? The ultimate antidote for grief is gratitude. How lucky am I to have such a bright light on the timeline of my life? I am frickin' blessed. Grief is love. It's totally 100% based on love. It means you had love. A lot of people never have love. You are so frickin' lucky to have had such love. It's interesting. In the movie, the first movie, Inside Out, there's the 9-year-old kid, and she's like, loves this memory of playing hockey. And then she has something where she's not happy in where she lives because of the school and the people. Kids make fun of her in school. And she's like, she changes that wonderful memory of playing hockey, which could be a loved one, right, into a bummer because she doesn't have it anymore. And in the movie they go, don't paint it blue, which is grief, right? Don't paint it blue. Think of it as, how blessed are you to have had such a love? And then the sound of that, ooh, gratitude. Here's gratitude. Ooh. That's so good for your body. I mean, grief is not bad for your body because it's like a beautiful, sad song. Ooh, ooh, ooh. But if you do that for years, it's kind of like drags your energy down a little bit. It's nice to have joy and happiness as well, right? So grief is not like a lot of other emotions that are grating. Like, I mean, despair. It's like, right? That's really not good for you. Or even anger, or even anxiety. A lot of those are really bad for you. Grief and sadness are sweet songs, but over time they can, drain your energy a little bit. Right? So gratitude is the full answer. I remember years ago I had a major relationship and we broke up, and for 6 months I was like, oh, right, and I was just so, kept getting sad almost every day, right, and then finally I thought, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to switch that sadness to gratitude. A lot of people don't have the mental capacity to do that. But if you just think, okay, here comes the grief. Okay, what would I do? What would it feel like if I switched this to thank you, thank you, thank you, and run that energy? And it's so effective. It's so effective. And in fact, it's actually, you can actually start focusing on that from the beginning. Most people, I think, need a week or two to grieve. And in many cultures, that's quite common. In some cultures, they actually have people grieving for like a year. Right? But the second you start focusing on the gratitude, you're on the way to shifting it. Right? In fact, at the highest level of consciousness, if you can go to okay and gratitude immediately, you may not even have to grieve. I know I'm not even at that level. I mean, you know, and that was just my kitty, not someone that I was really close to, right? I mean, still, you know, animals are still pretty major for a lot of us, right? So gratitude is really the ultimate. Some people say that it should be at least a couple of months. I mean, even especially if you've got like a child that dies. And I understand that. But I would say if you are aware enough to be able to shift it to gratitude, I would say a week or two is really it. Now, even after that, you're still going to have things bubbling up, especially if it's somebody really close. But it's not like you're grieving all day long every day, right? It's like, you know, you got a thought about the person and you get sad and start crying. And, you know, if they're doing it a lot, switch it to gratitude. That's the ultimate. And that's where you're going to end up. That's the final transformation where you're like, thank you. Thank you for that relationship. Thank you for that thing or being I had in my life. That's the ultimate. Gratitude's always a good place to end up. Now, the next one is universal love. If you can go to a place of universal love where there's indescribable love coming in, and it never will go away, then you know you've got way more love than could have ever come from any person, and it's never going away. That's the best. The only problem is I've been polling people in classes and workshops for 10 years, and less than a quarter of the people can actually access universal love at will. Most people haven't even experienced it, much less be able to access it. So there's some good techniques, but you can always default to just sending the sound of love to your own heart, like this. Try that. Try that. Send the sound of love to your own heart. Most people can do that. And then you go, look, you've got all the love in the world right there in your own self. Right? Now, there's many good techniques for accessing universal love. I had a psychic years ago said that universal love comes in through the thymus down into the heart. And I started visualizing universal love coming in through the thymus into the heart. And it took me like 5 years. And finally, I've got it down where I could run universal love into my heart through the thymus. You can do it with or without sound. Some people talk about universal love coming in through the crown, down your spine, and it's actually the pineal gland that actually triggers those chills of love in your head. That actually is the best, right? That's really, really cool. And so, to be able to, one way is to visualize this love coming in, and then also imagine it until it finally happens. Just fake it till you make it, right? So that's the other thing to do, is universal love, or just send love to your own heart. Now, ultimately, if you can just be present in the moment with the light around you, with the sounds around you, present in your body, then there is no grief. You're not living in the past, you're living in the present moment, which is often about love, light, and joy, right? So practicing presence is really, really incredible. I have to tell you the story of my friend Bev. We were talking about grief and going through all these different techniques, and her husband had just died like last year. And I said, "How are you doing around your husband dying?" And she goes, "I'm fine. I can feel him every day." It's like he's not gone. I feel his love every day. So she was able to tune in to the fifth dimension where his spirit is still there. Her soul, it's like, as they say, only our physical body dies. Our soul is still completely present. And so she was able to tune into that energy. She said, it's like he's not gone, right? In fact, only the bad parts are gone. The really sweet part, the love, is still there completely. That's really beautiful, right? So these are some of the techniques you can do. But you know, different cultures do grief in different ways. I always thought it would be really cool to actually make a movie of the different grief techniques from different cultures, to be able to get all of the gems from different ones. But what's really cool is a lot of different cultures use sound for grief. And one of our students, Donalyn, did her final paper on all the different sound techniques from around the world. And so I took a lot of those YouTube videos, and I want to play some of them for you. They're really interesting. So the different techniques, let me pull up my document here. So we're going to start with a technique from the Maori people from New Zealand. This is the Haka funeral ceremony. This is an actual funeral or wake. Yeah. A little intense. Wow, that's powerful, huh? So then we've got a keening for a dead child sung by Kitty Gallagher. Beautiful, huh? Okay. Then let's see. We've got also Joe Heaney keening in the Connemara tradition. Just precious, huh? Just precious. Okay. Then we got a audio recording of a famous Waiata tangi or lament from one of the tribes of Waikatu. Cool. Okay. Then we have professional mourners that are hired for a family from the dad in Sardinia. So they were actually hired to actually do the wailing for the dad, right? Oh my God. And then here's a eulogy of a member of the Manabo Duangan tribe in Philippines. Here's a Native American chant. And then we've got using bells for the death of Queen Elizabeth.
She's gone.
And then bagpipes. This is from southern India. Check this one out.
காதல் கொண்டு வந்தத பசி கொண்டு போச்சே புள்ள பசிக்கு நீ வந்து வயிற்று பசிக்கு ஆச்சே இரு சீர் கொடுத்து ஒரு சீர் வளர்த்தோம் ஆனா இப்ப.
And then we've got a song this guy did, Vala the composer. Check this out. This is sweet. Wow, that's really effective. Like I was talking before, that would be a perfect song to bring people into grief if they weren't actually feeling it. Oh my God, it's just such a beautiful song. All right. And then I want to play my song. It's called Good Grief. As I play this song, think of all the grief in your life, all those you have lost or anything you have lost that has caused you to feel grief that you still might be holding on to. And then use this song to help transform it if you're ready. Right? If it's just happened recently, may not be the time, but still enjoy. I want to tell you a story about grief and depression. I had this couple that I was really good friends with, and they were really into doing sound healing research and ready to go. And last year, they went snorkeling south of San Francisco in Big Sur, actually. And a really big wave came and killed the guy of the couple. They didn't find his body for about 5 days. And the woman calls me up and she says, Jake is gone. She's just bawling, right? I said, come on over. I've been working with groups on grief and maybe I can help you. And she said, is there a rainbow there? I'm like, no. He said, come on over. So she comes over with her mother and her sister, and she wasn't just grieving. She was totally depressed. And her voice was like, I can't believe he's gone. It's the way she talked the whole time for like a few hours. I can't believe it. It's like, right? She could barely talk. And her mom and her sister got totally entrained into that depression. So they were like totally in that vibe as well. I'm like, whoa, how am I going to help here? Right? So first I put her on the sound table. That helped a little bit. Right? And then I went through all the different techniques, gratitude, and then we did the universal love and sent the love to her own heart, and then even told her the story about Andrew, about okay, right? But then I realized that this was not grief. This was depression. Because I said, have you been crying? She said, oh, I've been bawling and bawling wrong. But she was in depression. And she was saying things like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life now. I don't really have any will to live. I'm like, whoa, this is not grief. This is depression, right? And so we've got many techniques for depression that we've created. We've got a whole site on the Medical Sound Association site, or whole page for depression. So I thought to do this technique, and I thought, well, this may not work. I said, in class what we do is when we're feeling a little down, we do a really powerful no. And it's like this, warning for you guys. I'm going to get really loud. So I demonstrate. It's like 1, 2, 3, no! Like full on power, right? And I said, you want to try it? And she says, okay. I said, okay, on 3, imagine there's a tiger attacking you, and you've got the power with your voice to stop it in its tracks. You're not going to hurt the kitty. You're simply going to set boundaries, which is really for the depression. Right? And I said, on 3, which is always 4, do a really loud no. And I go, you ready? And she says, yeah. I go, 1, 2, 3. And she goes, no! Full on power. Just about knocked me over. And I'm like, holy crap, you're still in your power. Jake would not want you to be depressed. You are totally in your power, and you need to use that power and say no to the depression. Let the grief, cry, do whatever you need to do. Bring up and do the gratitude. Switch it to gratitude as soon as you can, and allow yourself to grieve, but do not do the depression. And she goes, okay. And her voice changed completely. Within 10 minutes, we're all kind of laughing and giggling. And then we look out the window. I live like right overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge. And there's a double rainbow over the Golden Gate Bridge. And we all go out in the front porch, and we're all bawling at that point. But it was just beautiful. And we're hugging everybody. And then everybody's energy was completely not depressed anymore. So there's a lot of issues that go with grief. I mean, some people even have pain, right? There's a full range, and we've got a full range of treatment plans on the Medical Sound Association that actually go with that. Okay. Okay. Now, on our site for the Medical Sound Association for Grief, we've got a full range of details on how to work with grief. Right? So we've got the safety guidelines in case somebody's really having trouble. Right? And we got intake questions, and then we got the actual conceptual framework or theoretical approach. So here's the treatment plan. Remember, it's for different stages, whether they're just happened or not feeling, or it's been going on a really long time. So we got the whole thing to bring them to a place of peace. We got voice work, sounds on the body. The vibroacoustics can be really good as well. The brainwave entrainment tuned to the person, and then there's the transformation. You could just be with them. So many people are grieving, and so many people are stuck in grief. And then also with the gratitude, you can actually look at all the things to be grateful for besides just that person. Okay, so we've got a lot of details here for all the different issues. We also, again, have homework they could do, music they could listen to. You could help them create their own playlist on Spotify or in iTunes. There's so many different things. And really just look at moving forward and being present. Check this out at Medical Sound Association, and then you can go down to the section on grief and click on that, and you'll see this 30-page treatment plan for grief. Our intention, once again, is that no one is stuck in grief too long, and that people grieve perfectly, appropriately, and take care of it so you can get back to presence and running love and joy and bliss like we're meant to. Grief is not bad. Grief is beautiful. It's totally based on love. Thank you so much. Take care.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in Unity Consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.